Hi everybody, this is Joshua Kirk back with you guys once again on YouTube. And now it's time for episode, I believe this is like episode 25 of Album of the Day or something like that. And I'm going to do another album review here, in which I'm really excited to do this review. Never been this excited to do a review before until I decided to make plans to do this one. And this is my first review this year of an album that came out this year. It was released on April 29th, 2014, and it came out like this past Tuesday. So I'm pretty happy right now because unlike last year where I kind of had difficulties looking for an album to review in 2013 that was released in 2013, however, this year, though, I finally I don't have much difficulties looking for a 2014 album to review since I'm doing one this year. And today's artist is an artist that I've reviewed about like a couple of times on my channel. I reviewed them on my first episode of I reviewed their album Blame It on Gravity, released in 2008, on my first episode of Album of the Day. And on another episode later, I reviewed probably their best album, Wreck Your Life, released sometime in like 1995 or 1996. It says 1995 on the case, but a lot of people claim it was the 1996 album, so it could be right or they could be wrong, but, you know. Anyway, that doesn't matter to me. So I've reviewed them a couple of times, so this isn't my first time reviewing them. But I'd like to thank these guys, the Old 97's, an alternative country band from Dallas, Texas. Sort of a punkified country sound that they have. They really remind me of like older Wilco or Whiskey Town or Drive-By Truckers and Uncle Tupelo. So they totally do remind me of like sort of old school kind of, punkified country kind of groups. And I'd like to thank the Old 97's for like watching my review of Wreck Your Life and liking it and all that. So yeah, I have to thank all of you for all the attention that I've got on that review. And speaking of Wilco, by the way, I am wearing a Wilco t-shirt. So I'm going to review the Old 97's, let me think about it. They've released a lot of albums, so let me think about it. The place in discography for this album. I think this is probably their 10th album, but anyway, the album is called Most Messed Up, and it was released on April 29th, 2014, so it's a new album. And this was their first album released on ATO Records, so now they signed a new record deal to ATO Records, because they left New West Records, and this is ATO Records, like, 232nd CD that they've released. Their first one was, I know their first album released was one of my favorite albums of all time, David Gray's White Ladder, which hope I might do a review of White Ladder sometime because it's one of my favorite albums of all time, by David Gray. And I know he's releasing a new album in June, so pretty excited about that. So yeah, and that's also the label for people like My Morning Jacket, and recently Jessica Lee Mayfield signed to that label and released her new album, Make My Head Sing, on it, which is unlike her early stuff, this kind of alt country Americana influence. Her new album is a little more kind of influenced by punk, sort of, kind of like Nirvana or Pearl Jam or Foo Fighters a little bit. But we won't get into too big detail about any of those other records that I mentioned, because we're here to talk about the new Old 97's record, Most Messed Up. So here's the cover of it. And first of all, let me say I love this cover. It looks like a burning red cactus or something. Looks really weird, but at the same time, really cool. Spine, the other spine, and then there's the back of it. So the songs on here are Longer Than You've Been Alive, Give It Time, Let's Get Drunk and Get It On, This Is the Ballad, Wheels Off, Nashville, Wasted, Guadalajara, I think that's how you pronounce it, The Disconnect, Acts of All You See, Intervention, and the title track, Most Messed Up. It's produced by Salim Nourallah, who produced Blame It on Gravity and the Grand Theater Records, and it's 39 minutes and 57 seconds long, although when I put this in my CD player, it's actually 39 minutes and 55 seconds. And it says, play this album loud, which playing this album loud isn't required if you prefer a kind of softer volume, but if you prefer loud volume, chances are that they probably put it on there for the play it loud people. Kind of like what the Black Keys did on their album El Camino, where they put the play loud sticker on it on the shrink wrap. Unfortunately, I originally wanted the sticker on my copy, but apparently I couldn't put it on there. But, since I like to play the Black Keys loud anyway, I don't need that sticker. And it says we're on the internet at old97 at www.old97s.com and www.atorecords.com. So let's open this up, and unfortunately there's no lyrics in the insert, but anyway, there's a cover, and then there's some pictures from the studio and liner notes and more pictures here. And special guests on this record include Tommy Stinson, played some guitars on here, additional guitars on here, and background vocals, and Jon Rauhouse, who's on Bloodshot Records, played pedal steel a little bit on it too. He also contributed a little bit to the Too Far to Care album on pedal steel and banjo, and once again he appeared on a few tracks off of Fight Songs, playing some steel on there too. So yeah, there's really no fancy production or any of that. This is definitely not like the poppier stuff that's that you would find on an album like Fight Songs or Satellite Rides or Blame It on Gravity, because I know all three of those records are the poppiest stuff the 97's have ever done, kind of influenced a little bit by 60s pop sort of, and I know a lot of people complain about that sound, but me personally, since I'm a dedicated fan of this group, I really liked those albums, although Fight Songs is probably their weakest album, in my opinion. I mean, there's good songs, but just not as memorable and just not as energetic. In fact, I hear it was a hard record to record anyway, so yeah, it made sense. So that's Most Messed Up by the Old 97's. So let's talk about this record. The first track on here is called Longer Than You've Been Alive, which is a song that kind of talks about the 97's, which kind of about the 97's kind of personality on the road or something, when they would play shows and stay at hotels and do all this stuff. They've been doing that for well over 20 years, so it made sense that they decided to go ahead and write a song about that to open this record, to show this is kind of their party, kind of their drinking album, because this is kind of an album that's definitely not like Fight Songs at all. So yeah, this is definitely kind of the album that kind of puts the poppier sound of Blame It on Gravity and albums like that out the window. So yeah, I like how it builds. It starts out just Philip Peeples cymbals, as well as Rhett Miller's acoustic guitar, along with his voice kind of speaking with kind of a point of view with a songwriter kind of spending most of his life on the road, sort of. And yeah, so that's but then it builds up. Coming in, there's Murry Hammond's bass, and then Ken's electric guitar, and then the full drum kit. And it's a long song. It's about 6 minutes long, and it's got 6 verses and a chorus in between it. So yeah, it's kind of a the gem of this full record, because it's the longest song on the whole record. But it's still a single anyway, although yeah, singles are usually simply kind of 2 or 3 minutes long, but this one seems to be an even longer single, that's for sure. In fact, I wouldn't call it a single, because old 97's have never really put out a hit single. In fact, they never planned to anyway. But, you know, I'll call it a single because it was the first track released from the album. It was released around February. The next track on here is called Give It Time, and this kind of dates back to kind of the older songs of Wreck Your Life and Too Far to Care specifically, because it kind of talks about, you know, this is kind of a song, a rocking track about like kind of a bad relationship. Like Rhett Miller saying, like, the first time I saw you, I thought I might be sick, and like saying that give it time and it will break you, because this is kind of a song that kind of shows that the 97's aren't really love song kind of people. Instead, they're kind of people that write songs that are about like people just not wanting love and just wanting to suffer, you know, and just thinking that, you know, the woman that they might be talking about might think that they're in peace, but they're not. Like, this kind of dates back to a song like Crying Drunk, where like it's a song where Rhett Miller says, "You like to think I'm sleeping in peace, but I'm not because I'm crying drunk in the middle of the night." So yeah, it's kind of like that, sort of. The next track is called Let's Get Drunk and Get It On, and this is kind of a song that is like their new kind of drinking kind of song, because it's kind of a song that sort of shows that this album is about like making bad decisions and not really treating yourself or other people very good. Very good. So yeah, it's kind of a song, you know, about that sort of, and it's like, you know, really rocking and stuff, you know. And the 97's would definitely argue that this is kind of something they've been doing for a while. Like, sometimes they're kind of like, you know, let's get drunk and find the back of a car or something like that. Car like that. So yeah, this is kind of one of the most fun songs on the album. This Is the Ballad is kind of a song, it's kind of a swaying ballad about like drinking rye whiskey and, you know, all that, and like and all that is kind of, you know, once again kind of about, you know, bad decisions a little bit. The song Wheels Off is kind of a song about like how sometimes drinking can really kind of, you know, kind of keep you out of whack a little bit. Can kind of keep you out of whack a little bit, and just kind of, you know, get your wheels off a little bit. It's a nice catchy song here. The guitar and the shaker thing, I think the guitar and shaker combination, I think, sounds great on this song. The song Nashville was kind of a, you know, fun, barn-burning, kind of Pogues-esque kind of sing-along track that Rhett Miller wrote in Nashville with this old guy named John McElroy. Like, it was written around the time when the 97's were in Nashville and Rhett Miller disappeared for a day to write this song with John McElroy, this old guy. And this song originally was not called Nashville. That's pretty funny. Like, at first they couldn't find a title that didn't have, like, strong language in it, but, you know, now they kind of found Nashville to be an appropriate title because that's where the song was written. It's kind of about, you know, this feeling really messed up sometimes and not thinking that anything can improve, and just thinking like, man, I feel messed up. Like, you know, that's kind of a song that I think it's a song that's bound to be a fan favorite, because it is a song that's like catchy, and I think the 97's fans are going to want to hear this song again and again and again. So yeah, I think this one's going to be a great one for the live shows, since you know, it's like a Pogues-y kind of barn burner sing-along that I think would be excellent for the shows. The song Wasted is kind of a song about how sometimes you just feel like you won't even want to worry about happiness or ease. You just want to feel wasted with someone. The track Guadalajara, I don't know how to pronounce that one. I think Guadalajara is the way to pronounce it, but yeah, it's kind of a funky word that I've never heard before, but maybe I'll see, maybe I'll just look it up and see what it means after this video probably, but the song Guadalajara is really interesting. It has a surf guitar on it, as well as kind of this whiny kind of steel guitar in the background too, which I think is probably played by Jon Rauhouse on here. So yeah, this is one song that I don't think the 97's have played live yet. In fact, they said in an interview that they haven't played it live yet, but I think it'll be a great one live, because I think the fans are gonna love Ken Bethea's surf guitar live on this one. So yeah, this is kind of a song that's kind of, kind of reminds me of like surfing a little bit, although I don't surf, but I'm sure anyone who surfs would probably listen to this song and say, yeah, it reminds me of what I do for a living musically. The song The Disconnect is kind of a, song about like how sometimes, like, you just come across that person and you try to be friends with that person, but then everything goes wrong and you decide you want to let that person go and you don't want to see that person again. It's kind of like the song Going, Going, Gone, which is kind of a song about leaving someone that's not right for you behind. Sort of like Going, Going, Gone. That song off of Wreck Your Life. And this is kind of a song that's like, I think by the title, The Disconnect, you can tell it's kind of a song about how sometimes you do tend to disconnect, but yet at the same time you do tend to connect with disconnecting a little bit, like whether it's relating to a relationship with someone that's not really that good for you, or if it's just relationships with yourself, just experiencing a lot of drastic, problems. Experiencing little drastic problems. So yeah, I think this song can be easy to connect to lyrically. The next song in here is one of my favorites on the whole album, The X of All You See. And this song has Murry singing on it, which I was pretty happy to hear Murray's voice at least once on this album, because on most of the recent old 97's records, Murray sang on like 2 songs, but on here, this is the only song where he sings on it. And we just say, I really love his voice. Hearing his harmony over Rhett Miller's voice, this is great. But hearing his lead vocal work with Rhett Miller doing the harmony is excellent. Excellent. So yeah, I think this song, like, has some great vocal work on here, as well as like, some great guitar work and drumming. The next song in here is a song that I can listen to 100 times a day. I love it so much. Intervention. It's a fun song, There's a fast little guitar riff and drumming, and, and plus it has like these kind of unison, and plus it has kind of these shouting, kind of these sudden kind of unison kind of background vocals coming from, I think it was Tommy Stinson, because he came in the studio and played some guitar and additional background vocals, so there's like these unison vocals of like, intervention, in the background, over Rhett Miller's voice. Miller's voice. And the closing track, Most Messed Up, is kind of a song with Rhett Miller talking about how, sometimes he just feels like the most messed up person in the whole town. And I really like how at the end, he does a little dramatic thing at the end where he literally just kind of, yells them, like, in the town, like, slowly as he can, going into, like, the big finish of the song. And, it's a great closer for the whole record, because it's kind of a close out to kind of the fun, raucous, wild, like, loud, kind of punkified country sound of this whole record. So yeah, this album, Most Messed Up, I am just blown away to death by this album. This is probably one of the best I've heard all year so far, although I don't want to say it's the best album of the year, because I just want to listen to more records this year and wait a little bit and see if something And by the end of the year, maybe we'll see if there's something that like tops the list of my favorite albums of 2014. But this one is definitely getting closer to the top for sure. Like, I know that there are some fans that have children out there that might worry about like the strong language or like the mature grown-up content on this album, talking about like drugs and drinking and bad decisions and like, you know, all that stuff. So yeah, it's kind of a record that, you know, some fans with kids might worry about some of the mature content on this record, but I really love it a lot. So I really love it a lot. The lyrics are like really entertaining and, you know, fun and, you know, sometimes hilarious. Musically, the album is just straight up unadorned. Rock and roll. Like, so for Most Messed Up, I'm definitely feeling like a 9 out of 10 on this album. I mean, it's literally that good. Like, you know, if you're an old 97's fan, if you love the 97's, if you've been a fan for a while, and especially if you really like Wreck Your Life or Too Far to Care, if those are like your favorite records by them, you're gonna go head over heels for this album. Like, I'm sure anybody out there who was like, I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that may have been disappointed by the poppier sound of like fight songs that are gonna go crazy. They're gonna be happy with this album. So I'm gonna give Most Messed Up 9 out of 10. It's an album that's just enjoyable throughout. Not a single bad song, not a single filler track. It all just rocks. So that's my review of Most Messed Up by the Old 97's. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Like, if you're a 97's fan and have already heard this album, I'd love to hear your thoughts in it in the comment section. So this is Joshua Kirk reviewing Old 97's album Most Messed Up, signing off.